So I had a little bit of time on my hands, and I was watching the president in Alaska, and among his many appearances throughout the state, including the Arctic region, was this exit glacier. And before the exit glacier, he was saying it was all the proof we needed that the glaciers are receding, and indeed they are. But in the case of exit glacier, it occurred to me that it's receded 1.25 miles, which is a lot, but since 1815. So I'm thinking, all right, obviously the Earth is warming up, and there are many, like the president, many who argue, much of the scientific community, that it is the fault of man. Man has made that the globe tick up, and with all the industrial activity. I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, 1815 this started, right? I mean, and I'm thinking, all right, that's a long time. The Industrial Revolution kicked in almost 70, 80 years later. So wait a minute, how much of that is man, and how much of these climate rules that we are now considering, and that could be very pricey and expensive rules at that, are addressing the right phenomenon? And are we paying too much for something that maybe we didn't do? Well, we're not going to get into a he said, she said on the climate, but we are going to get into what it costs for all of us in the meantime with the former Secretary of Energy, Spencer Abraham. Secretary, good to have you. I just thought that backdrop, sir, was a little odd. I just thought it was a little odd, and the price tag more than a little jaw-dropping. What do you make of it?
Well, Neil, first, good to be with you. And second, I think a lot of people were a little surprised that at a point when we have so much market uncertainty, so much volatility, especially with respect to energy prices, that the president was not at his desk and trying to reassure Americans in the financial community, but rather up in Alaska. And every time you inject the issues of more federal regulations about energy and fossil fuels and so on, you send another, jolt, I think, into economic markets. And that probably happened last week, I think.
But if it is happening, I mean, the markets had a funny way of showing it, Secretary, and maybe the president's argument, environmentalist argument in general, is we can afford to do the kind of things we're talking about because energy prices are sinking, and this is the perfect time to start addressing this stuff. What do you say?
Well, I think that if you have real volatility and shock in the energy markets, what you get in the short term in terms of price at the pump is offset by, as you've already talked on the show, loss of jobs and other implications on the broader economy when you have energy companies facing real challenges making a profit.
Where do you think this all goes, Secretary? I mean, if we are to go this way where we're all trying to make the air cleaner, less polluted, I think everyone would be on board with that in the aggregate. But when China and India largely get a pass, and China at least is allowed to really seriously think about this a couple of decades out, methinks that's not fair.
Well, it's interesting you brought up China, because I was thinking when I saw all of this in the last few days in the markets that not too long ago the president and the Chinese government entered into an accord of sorts about climate and taking actions voluntarily and so on. It'll be interesting to see if, in light of the developments in their economy, the Chinese stick to those commitments, or if they discard them in light of the reality of some serious economic challenges they're facing. I suspect they will, and I think that will really cause us to have to reflect on the wisdom of all of these different regulations going forward.
All right. Thank you very much, Secretary. By the way, as the Secretary was speaking, I'm getting an email from Claire, who emails, "Hey, stupido," and I'm saying that because you're Italian, you would understand, Cavuto, "the Earth might have been warming up in 1815. No doubt, Claire, it might have been. But I'm just saying, for all of this to be man-caused or human-caused, and to make the argument that this is something that we were threatening the ozone layer back in the early 1800s is a bit specious. That's all I'm saying.